Hello, this is David Sherry. I have another document as a reference to give you that I created here. And I created it for myself because sometimes things get a little complex, you know what I mean, programming with PHP. And so anyway, what we're going to be talking about and what I'm showing you in this document is um, escaping with PHP and HTML for safer output. And the purpose is due to what we call cross-site scripting, or also known as XSS. Okay. Now, the most important part of this is understanding that you're going to have to use HTML special characters. Okay. And talking about HTML special characters, you have what is called encoding and decoding. All right. And I don't know if I can explain it here without actually showing you some extra code. But this here, what you're seeing here, is what we call encoded special characters. Otherwise, you would not be able to see it in this document. Okay. All right. Let me give you an example of what I mean by looking at the source page here. View source page. Okay. You go down here to the go through here. All right. See all this garbage right here? That's encoded HTML special characters. It allows you to see the document. All right, so when you want to decode these characters, you can do it through JavaScript, PHP, Perl. You can do it through, I can't even think of the other programming languages because I'm not in the mind. But you can do it through a lot of programming languages to encode and decode. So when you see something like this, it means it's encoded. Okay, you'll see some similar characters in URLs, so if you want to remove those, you have to decode it. All right, to get them out. Okay, now let's go back to this part here. All right, so if you want to handle things correctly, okay, then you're going to use text because that's the variable here, end quotes and UTF-8. So that means it'll handle as UTF-8 for escaping, special characters. Okay, that's just a basic example there. Now, the server self variable is very important. Okay, and so the server self variable goes right in through here. Okay, and this is the modern way of doing it. Okay, and so if you have a plain HTML form action, okay, in other words, this is not in the PHP part of the web page, but it's in the HTML part of the web page. And when I do it, I normally put it in the top of the page. Okay, and so when you do the form action, and if you're sending it to the same page, which if you see this right here, that means the page has a file extension of PHP. Okay, because it's sending it to itself. All right, and that also protects you in this sense, in that no one knows the actual file extension, so they can do cross-site scripting. Okay, that's why it's important. All right, and so so like you'll have the beginning of HTML page, and let me try to give you an example, okay, of what this is, what I mean by saying this. Okay, I won't have to open up a document. Okay. I'm looking for a free, okay, HTML document. Let's hope I don't have code stuck in there. Okay, so here's the code right here. Okay, now this would be saved, as outside of the PHP. Okay, now if I have down here this, oops, it always do that. I have a messed up hand, so please forgive me. ain't it typing? Cap locks. Did I do that? Alright, maybe that'll make it work. Or I didn't click it. What is going on? There we go. Okay. So anyway, this is the PHP code. Okay. Now this document would be saved as PHP. So then what I would do is I'd say save as, and it'd be some text, and I would just change this here to PHP. All right. Now I'm going to cancel that because I don't want to save this information. So anyway, that's, you know, in the form action, you know, in other words, this is how we use it here like this, but we don't use this code inside here. Because if we do, then it's going to fail due to escaping issues, and this is what this tutorial is kind of like about. So anyway, I might need this later to show you. Okay, so we're going to go back to the web document here. Okay, so that's what I mean by using the PHP server self. You know, can expose yourself if not escaped. Okay, so this here deals with, you know, properly dealing with things. Okay, now, and that's why you have this, right, this stuff here, int quotes UTF-8 HTML special characters. Okay, that's the function you're using, and this allows you to handle you know, quotes and UTF-8. Okay, this is the proper way to do it. Now in terms of anchors, okay, it's the same thing here. Okay, to do it with anchors, you want to escape your anchors rather than send it directly to the anchor. So what I mean by that is this. Okay, let me try to get this down here. I guess I want to do it this way. And then to do it with anchors, okay, you want the anchor up here. Oops, didn't copy it. 1 second. Should copy it. Let me do it this way. Copy code. Okay. So you want the anchor the same way. You want the anchor up here for this particular code here. Otherwise, if you put it in down here in the PHP, it won't work. None of this will work that way. Okay, so the anchor would go there, and then your code in your PHP document would be, you know, like here, code. All right, that's where your code would be. All right, and so, as I said, this will be saved as a PHP file, and it allows you to send it, and it doesn't expose you file extension, and plus it escapes special HTML characters. Okay, handles UTF-8, and it deals with quotes. And that's the whole purpose of it. And you know, then you got your query string right there. Okay, now, so that's where that belongs, to show you that. Okay, now you have the alternative here. I don't like using this alternative. Okay, I try to stay with the same form of coding, so I don't stick with that. I put that in there. You know, I haven't memorized to use it. Okay, this is what I work with right here. Okay, you know, I stick to the same pattern of coding. All right, and then you have it done this way with filter variable if that's the way you want to use. Okay, now we're going to get into single quoted strings to avoid backslashes on form elements. Okay, now this is within the actual PHP form, so let me show you what I mean by that. Okay, that would be going right here. Okay, so we're dealing with the form action with PHP, and this is the proper way to do it. You know, as you noticed earlier, it was different than what I was showing you earlier. You know, I want to keep this simple, so I don't want to go into a bunch of that. Okay, so this is for inside a form. Okay, single quoted strings to avoid backslashes on a form element. So you want to do, what they mean here is this here and this here. Okay, and then you copy all this, you know, and put it in there. Okay, now more stuff. Okay, now this is the one you want to use when you're dealing with a form element. But what if you're dealing with an anchor or a link? Then this is the one you want to use for an anchor or a link right there. Okay? Alright, and that will go within the PHP document itself. In other words, this here would be no different than this here inside the PHP. In other words, you're using it here. Okay? Usually I put anchors above forms, so that's what we'll do here. So you would use it right there, echo, and then this is the anchor right here. And it just, simply means go to reload. It has no query string or anything there. Alright? So this is the correct way for doing it, echoing an anchor with single quotes. So you got the single quote here? That's what I'm referring to here. Okay, now, escaping quotes with one layer of backslashes. Okay, that's the old way of doing it. But if you put that into a database, then what's going to happen is, depending on what you're using, this will be removed and this will be removed. Okay, in most cases. And so if you want to copy the code and try to use it directly out of the database, when they put out the output, a lot of times the output, you will not see this. And that it can be a big problem. And so, but there are ways to deal with it, but that's another tutorial another day. Alright, and then fully escape form element in PHP literal output. And so this shows you how to do it there. To fully escape it. Now, in some cases you could use this and put it into a database and you end up with this. So therefore the code is still usable. Okay, it doesn't create a real bad problem. But every time you open up your editor, alright, it'll cause issues if you try to modify the code when you save it. And so that's another issue. Alright. And so we're back to dealing with HTML special characters concerning the title, end quote, And the reason you're doing this is because you're probably going to be taking, this is just preparing you for form input. Okay. And then you got more here, down here. Okay. Echo HTML special characters. Okay. And, so I may have done that twice. Yeah, I did that twice. That's because I was planning on putting more stuff in there and I didn't do it. Alright, and same thing here. This is just a repeat of the same thing. Sorry about that. That reminds me, I may have deleted the wrong thing. I gotta put it back. Apparently there was some unfinished business I forgot. I gotta make sure it's still there. Ooh, I'm glad I did that. Oh, I'm pretty sure it's there, but I'm not going to go through the time of trying to find it. Number one, yeah, that's it. Okay. And so anyway, then I'm going to go down here. Okay, now these are my notes. Okay, and so when you're dealing with something that is not within the PHP tags, inside the PHP tags, this tells, I make a note, we no longer use this. We use this, and that's because of the security issue with cross-site scripting. Okay, and that that's outside of the PHP tags. Okay, and and so the same thing here. This is what would be in the PHP tags, inside the PHP tags, using the echo statement. And so this is what this shows. Okay, this is the code change for form action when inside a PHP echo statement. The echo statement should single quotes like this. So so basically, if you copied that and then you copied this and put it between those tags, you'd have it correct. So this is basically a tutorial. I got a lot of stuff I'm doing and adding, so this is just a quick reference for those that need it. and it's all correct. It works perfectly to let you know. And so anyway, that's the end of this tutorial, and you have a good day. That tutorial was about PHP and HTML escaping for cipher output due to XS. Did I say that right? Due to XSS, all right, and cross-site scripting, how to escape it. And you probably want to do a study on XSS. I'm getting tongue-tied. It's a good, important study, as well as a study on HTML special characters, encoding and decoding. You can do it with Python, Perl. You can do it with JavaScript. You can do it with jQuery. Basically, any scripting language that you can do it. Anyway, you have a good day, and be blessed, and thank you for watching this video.